What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of It Resolves. My name is Kevin.
My name is Will. Thank you for tuning in, watching, or listening. Doing it however you're doing it, where you're doing it.
Dude, you remembered it that time.
I did. It came back naturally.
That was
Honestly.
sweet. It took us forever to remember that last time.
Yeah, I couldn't. But I think nearly 200 episodes, and you kind of...
Dude, we are near 200 episodes. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Isn't it?
That's a little ridiculous.
Seem real.
Yeah, it is a little unreal.
We've done it almost 200 times.
Yeah. Well, just a heads up, guys. Obviously, we are going to be talking Commander Legends. Now, I know we don't have a ton of cards to talk about, but we're going to talk about the set as a whole, our thoughts on it, and kind of hopefully kick off spoiler season right with a fun discussion on it. Just want to let you know, as always, if you have any questions, whether they're pertaining to Commander Legends, the podcast, anything, please feel free to ask them in the chat, and we will do a kind of AMA portion. If it doesn't necessarily pertain to exactly what we're talking about at the time, we'll talk about it after the fact. But I'm actually really excited. I have some thoughts on Commander Legends, not a ton, but I do want to give it, a decent try. So we will see how it goes. But as always, we get to kick off with potentially my favorite thing that It Resolves does, which is the random card of the day. Are you ready?
Oh, so ready. Hit me.
Good. All right.
I'm hoping for planes.
Dread of Night, an enchantment from Tempest for 1 black. All white creatures get -1/-1.
Oh, yes. Tempest, when we had to hate something.
Gah. Isn't this a testament to the times of Magic and how things have changed?
100%. Yeah. You now have instants that give everything -2/-2 in a turn.
Yeah.
So, while that's not as maybe impactful throughout the game, you can just use that as kill spells.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, things like this, we see kind of as one-offs and sideboards from time to time in like very like legacy and vintage formats when you know what you're going to be up against. Like for instance, if you were to play Dread of Night in like a monastery against a monastery mentor deck, like yeah, that's pretty good because it's going to just immediately kill the tokens. But 9 times out of 10, this is going to be absolutely useless to you, and therefore not really all that playable.
You're absolutely right. You wouldn't use it anywhere else.
No,
really.
Very few options for this. I mean, again, against white decks, obviously it's fine, but you got to have the right creatures in the deck that you can actually kill with it. And so I'm not a huge fan of it. It is a testament to how hate has, we'll say, evolved over the years. Things used to really pick on particular colors.
Yeah, and they like their enemy colors usually, right?
Sure,
like
absolutely.
There were green spells that countered, I think, specifically blue spells.
Yeah.
Which is weird, right? Green.
Yeah. Like, why does green counter at all? But no, you're exactly right. Like, we used to have things like choke, boil, wildfire, like things like that would deal with like specific lands and like just the absolute most hateful things you can think of, but they were obviously very narrow. And so the issue that you have with cards like these is that 9 times out of 10 they're dead cards, but that one time it can be good.
That one time 15 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Not so much anymore. But that's okay. Still kind of an interesting hate card. The art's kind of cool. Just the depth.
Pretty sweet. I'd like that like on a mountain nowadays, I think.
Yeah, me too.
Not a mountain. I mean a swamp. What am I saying?
I don't know. It's more mountainy than swampy.
It's very spiky. Yeah. It could be a few things. It could honestly be a blue-black land.
It could be. Yeah, you're exactly right.
A little bit of grayish blue shades.
Way to be there, Richard Thomas, who illustrated this card. Anyway, yeah, that's it. That wasn't the most exciting, but that's okay. Yeah, so we're talking Commander Legends today. We're gonna kind of talk through the set a little bit, some of like how it's set up, that kind of thing, when it's gonna be released and all that. And then we're gonna get into like our kind of opinions on the set as a whole, and then maybe talk about some specific cards as we go through. Just as a heads up, there has been a delay on Commander Legends. It was originally meant to be November 6th as the release date, which would actually be, the next 2 weeks or so. But it's been pushed back to the 20th. And it sounds like Wizards par for the course this year. They're having some shipping delays, somewhat understandable, I think, but
Definitely.
here we are. So
Yeah, it is.
the idea for this is taking Commander and making it a draftable format, which is definitely a bit odd, but
It's
definitely
different.
something people do. I mean, people make Commander cubes; they do that kind of thing. I know our friend of the podcast, longtime friend, Andrew, wanted to make a Commander cube, and I don't know that he ever did, but I think he was building it the last time he and I talked. And I think
Sure.
it's a cool idea. Like you draft your command, like the way he did it. You draft your commander, and then you go in and actually do the deck draft portion of it. This is a little bit different. We've got 20 card packs. Each pack has a rare mythic, a foil, and then 2 legendary creatures guaranteed. So you will have the opportunity to pick up your commander at any given time. And then each time you draft, you actually pick 2 cards, not just one. So definitely a different draft strategy here. I think it's going to make for a very interesting draft.
Not only that, important to note though, the 60 card deck is what you're aiming for, not a 40.
Yes.
You're also, the singleton rule is no longer in effect for the draft format.
Yeah.
Now they're adding some more commons to kind of, incentivize taking more than one, of the same card and whatever, and they're going to be more playable.
Yeah.
Than I think your typical commons in a limited set, but
for sure.
Definitely a little bit different, but certainly on theme for Commander.
Yeah, 100%. And I think they have to drop the card limit down because 100 is just crazy. But 60 card Commander deck I think makes sense. I think it's going to be a lot of interesting draft strategy for this. Alex, I'm playing Commander. What's going on? Alex, we're talking Commander Legends, so welcome. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. We talked about this a little bit kind of beforehand. And as most of you guys know, if you've watched us for a little bit, we've talked about like gimmicky sets. As in,
how much
like,
you don't like them typically?
Yeah, exactly. Like the Battle Bond kind of gimmicky set.
Yeah.
Jumpstart kind of fell in that category. I think Conspiracy fell in that category, but did it kind of well. I don't know. Do we feel like this falls into that category, I guess is my question.
Well, I don't think so. I think it will be more successful than other sets in the past.
Okay.
I think that what really it's hinging on is how much the players want to buy the set, i.e. are there chase cards for Commander that we get to see?
Yeah.
There are some lands that we'll talk about in a second, even though they're not like incredibly exciting.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as there are cards in there that Commander players want to have, like there's a new Planeswalker I think that people will pick up and slot it just to have.
Yeah, that card's sweet, and we will talk about those as we go through. But yeah,
so,
I'm with you there.
Yeah, if they do that, then I think it'll do well. It's limited, and limited is always fun. So I don't think you can really go wrong there. The rules don't break limited as much as other.
Battle Bond took the draft rules and just went like way far to one side with it, and it was like, okay, this is very far away. But I don't think that this is too far off from the regular draft rules. Disclaimer, I'm 100% biased for this set due to my play preference. For those who see this in the future. That being said, best set ever. Alex, you would say that.
Maybe best off canon set. Although there's some master sets.
There's some really good master sets, I will say. But Alex, I mean, I do think first of all, what I really like about this is that they are throwing a kind of a second bone, I guess, to Commander players, because normally we get our annual Commander product and that's kind of it. And then a few chase cards here and there in different sets. But what I'm really excited about here is that they're really kind of pandering to the Commander audience, which, as we all know, is one of the biggest audiences, if not the biggest audience in the Magic world. And so I do think that this is a good idea. And like we were talking about, Will, I think the fact that this doesn't stray too far from the regular draft pattern makes it a little bit more digestible for anybody to actually play it as it's intended. Because you bring up a good point. There were chase cards in things like Battle Bond and all kinds of different sets, but they weren't necessarily played as they were intended. I mean, I never drafted Battle Bond the way it was meant to be drafted, and I think that was kind of the norm, at least in talking to a number of people. But this, I think, will be.
Definitely. I have not met a soul who played Battle Bond other than like the night or the weekend it dropped.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they were just like, yeah, it's fun, but I can do this with more fun decks.
Yeah. It just like didn't really work, you know. Like I'm not saying the set was bad. It just as intended, it wasn't really working as the play was intended.
You know what Battle Bond was? Battle Bond is that line where the kid's unwrapping presents and he goes, "It's an avocado." Thanks. Like we didn't ask for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like okay, magic is fun, but like, thanks.
Yeah, you know? No, exactly. Like it kind of felt out of nowhere. Because, like you said, nobody was asking for it. It wasn't like it was a format people were like, oh, this would be really fun. It just, okay, here's this thing that we think people might like, and nobody really cared.
That dude you talked to at work like brought you an extra tuna sandwich, but you hate tuna. So you're like,
thanks.
Cool, bud. I'll definitely eat it.
I'm with you there. But I do think that this has my hopes a little bit higher. Because I do think that this is obviously Commander being the most widespread format, but also again not straying far from that pattern. I think this will work significantly better.
I am optimistic about it. I think it looks pretty fun.
As a non-Commander player, I will say I'm actually very excited to try it.
It'll be a good time. I really want to see Sol Ring in it. Like, give new players an opportunity, or rather, a reason to buy this product. Like, give us some Commander Sphere, Commander Tower is already spoiled. So give me Sol Ring and some other staples, and I'll be set.
I agree with you there. Well, and I think, you know, in terms of new cards, and you kind of touched on them, the new land cycle here. Speaking of staples, I think the new land cycle looks great. It will absolutely be played in every Commander set. I mean, it's just a good card. Like I'm not saying it's going to be a huge value card by any means, but it's definitely a very playable, solid dual land essentially.
Exactly. I mean, it doesn't do anything like special. You can't really interact with it anyway. It's not a bounce land, for instance.
And it's not like fetchable or anything like that.
Right.
It's just a really solid land cycle, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, can't hate it. It comes in untapped most of the time.
Yeah, 100%.
So, I think it's solid.
It's just a really solid land cycle, in my opinion. And, you know...
they're not called fast lands. They're called...
I don't actually know what the short-term
land
name is. But essentially, they enter the battlefield tapped unless you have 2 or more opponents. So the idea is in any multiplayer setting, if you've got like 3 people playing or more, you're going to be able to have these untapped all the time.
They would work in Two-Headed Giant.
They would.
If you
that's exactly correct. But they're just dual lands, like without the fetchability of a dual land, which is great. Absolutely fantastic. We are getting Commander Sphere back, like you mentioned, Command Tower. We've got Prosh back.
Yeah, so Prosh is the only reprint so far that is, well, the only Commander reprint, I should say. Like Commander specific. Prosh really only goes in as a Commander.
Yeah.
Because there's a couple Jund Commanders, I guess, that would use Prosh, but he's kind of just like window dressing if he's not the end all be all.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Prosh is like a good first commander, right?
Yeah, I think Prosh is a fun deck to build. There's really like one really good way to build Prosh, in my opinion. And just from and Alex, you're going to be our fact checker here because you're the one that plays Commander. But from my understanding, there's like Prosh Food Chain is like the main way to build Prosh, and it's very good. But it's not like it's a huge chase card. It's not like it's a huge value card. It's just a nice, good, solid Commander. So nothing wrong there.
He's the mashed potatoes to Commander product. Like, it's solid.
It's
no
just good.
Mashed potatoes, but he goes on everyone's plate. So,
before we keep going with some of these cards, I do want to mention the returning mechanics, and Food Chain Commander. Yeah, there we go. So used to be. Oh, pardon me, Alex. Well, please enlighten us on the best. But
Well, it's probably going to be...
on the food chain commander, I'm thinking.
Oh, yeah.
Um, let's talk mechanics really quick before we go too much further with some of these particular cards, because some of them that we're going to talk about do feature some of these. We'll talk returning mechanics first. First of all, we've got partner. Kind of an obvious choice. Partner has been a great commander mechanic, I think, and so to bring it back here just kind of makes a lot of sense. Essentially, it just means that you can have two commanders as long as they have partner, and so you can partner them together to make your commander, which is really cool.
They don't have to match colors. They don't have to share colors. They can be their own thing.
Exactly. So it just gives you more flexibility, more options if you've got the partner side of things. And actually, one of the cards I wanted to talk about here was that features partner is the Prismatic Piper, which is a common, but kind of an interesting card. So it's a 3/3 for 5 of any color. It can be if it's your commander, choose a color before the game begins, and it is that chosen color. So what that means for you in deck building is that you now have that color available to you. So if you've got like a red commander with partner and then the Prismatic Piper, you can choose if you want that to be your second color to be black. You can put green in it. You can do whatever. And so I already like that they're kind of playing with that a little bit. That feels very conspiracy-esque to me, and that they're playing with the color realm a little bit more than they necessarily had to. So I'm actually really excited about that. Some other returning mechanics. We do have Monarch, which was actually initially released in Conspiracy. Take the Crown, I believe. And it's an interesting one. It's a cool multiplayer mechanic, in my opinion. I think it slots well into a multiplayer format, just because it kind of puts a target on your back. And it can be kind of a politics game, if that makes sense. And so I do think that it makes sense here. I think it's going to be a fun one. The last returning mechanic is Cascade. Now, Cascade is just a sweet mechanic. Like, let's be very clear in saying this has not necessarily a ton of synergy in general. It's just freaking cool. There are Cascade commanders. Maelstrom Wanderer comes to mind. What's the other guy? The big one that cascades twice. Alex,
well, Maelstrom Wanderer cascades twice, does he not? Or is it 3 times?
Who is it?
You're thinking of the Ogre as well.
Yeah, he was like one of the flagship commanders, not last year, one of the years. Anyway, Cascade's just sweet. Maelstrom is twice. What's the other Cascade commander, Alex? There's a really big one that I can't think of. I'm looking it up.
I'm getting there.
Oh, everything gets Cascade. Okay, there we go.
That's it.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you. If you think of the name, let us know. But Cascade's just sweet. It just adds extra value to everything that you do. It's really, really cool. Now, as far as new mechanics go, as far as I know, we're only getting one, which is Encore. And I'm actually going to read this out. Encore is the new mechanic appearing only on non-legendary creatures. You can pay a creature's Encore cost and exile it from your graveyard to create a number of token copies of it equal to your number of opponents, which is interesting. Each of those tokens has haste, must attack either that player or a planeswalker they control, and is sacrificed during the end step. So it's kind of a last hurrah. Yidris, Alex, thank you.
Yeah,
you're the man.
I just got there. I didn't want to cut you off.
No, you're fine. So Encore is a really interesting, like, aggressive mechanic that it has a lot of text to it, but I think it kind of is interesting. I'm a little, I don't know. I like it. I think that it also, because you get a copy of the token or of the creature for every opponent that you have, it gives you options. You don't have to just attack one way or do anything like that. You can attack however you want. Andy, welcome. Thanks for hanging out, dude. You have no care in the world about Magic, but I'm glad that you're here. So
Kevin's sweet Baroque tone.
Do what?
Your voice.
My sweet
baby boy.
Alex, we're looking at spoilers, not leaks necessarily.
There are some, Andy. Like the Planeswalkers are leaks, technically.
The Planeswalkers are technically leaks, but most of these are confirmed. Alex, we're kind of making sure that we're only going with the confirmed stuff because I know there were a number of leaks, but we felt the need to be official about it. But yeah, like what are your thoughts on Encore?
It's good. I think it makes great sense in a limited environment. I think it. I can't think of really like a downside for it.
I mean, it's just extra value on your creature,
yeah,
right?
yeah. It's not like I think it's probably going to be even better than I'm thinking, but I mean, it's good. It's solid.
Yeah.
I would like it in other sets, maybe. I don't know, but
I think it kind of helps mitigate the because especially in a limited environment, you sometimes just have turns where you don't have much going on, if that makes sense.
yep.
And so having something in your graveyard that you can then encore out means you still have the ability to do something on those off turns every once in a while.
Sure.
And so I'm wondering if it's more of like a just fill in the gap mechanic, or if it plays well with things like Monarch, where you can kind of do a last hurrah, get Monarch, and then hopefully gain some value off of it. So maybe if you're behind, it'll help you kind of push back forward a little bit, and keep someone from going like too far back, if that makes sense. Like you're not just stalled out of the game completely. You've got something, ideally.
That's fair.
So I'm interested. I do really like it. I think it's going to be fun.
I think it's so. Yeah.
Yeah. But those are all the mechanics that are
other. I guess we got into spoilers, talked about the mechanics a little bit. Other cards to talk about. There are no cards that stand out to me right now as being the best commanders, but I think there's some you can obviously put together. The Cascade twins, sisters. I don't know if they actually are twins. Whatever.
Oh, the Trapper and the Ranger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll probably be partners at some point.
Sure.
There's a new Vampire, a 6-mana black creature that I think would just go as a black creature in regular commander decks.
I think so too. Yeah, it's quite good. Singir the Dark Baron.
Yeah, he seems okay.
Yeah.
I think there's enough to play around with sacking creatures and killing creatures that he can get pretty big and scary. So 100%. I think he's probably going to be around commander for a little while.
Yeah, I think so.
But the real fun stuff. Let's talk those planeswalkers, baby.
Yeah, these planeswalkers are sweet.
So let's go.
Jessica first.
Yes, good thing.
Jessica Thrice Reborn is a 3-mana planeswalker, 2 and a red. Enters the battlefield. Technically, it has 0 loyalty. It can be your commander, and it also has partner, for the record. It enters the battlefield with an additional loyalty counter on it for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game, which is really interesting because when you look at the mana cost initially, you're like, oh, it's a 3-mana planeswalker, like we can get this out early. Kind of doesn't entice you to get it out very early. However, that's not necessarily bad. That's just part of it. You can 0 it, choose a creature until your next turn. If that creature would deal combat damage to an opponent, it deals triple that damage instead. Ooh. So highly aggressive. Really, really sweet. And then you can minus X, and it deals X damage to each of up to 3 targets, which I think is quite powerful too. Now, the key here is that you can't uptick this planeswalker. There's no way to do that.
That's a funny thing, unless there's a card that's going to get printed with proliferate, which I guess isn't.
It's not labeled mechanic in here, so my assumption is we won't.
Yeah, it'd have to be a one of, and even then, I doubt that.
I don't think it would be. It's definitely not reliable if you're planning on drafting this.
Not evergreen, so no.
No.
That being said, I think that this would be outside of Commander Legends. That's an interesting idea.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you.
I think that there are. I mean, imagine this in a partner deck where your other commander is a creature.
Yeah.
And it's an evasive creature and it can swing for big damage. I mean, 21 commander damage.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's reasonable.
Yeah.
Or do you have to be at power 7 to make that work?
Yeah, I think so.
I just like hearing about Jessica, but I can't tell you it's bad. It's an amazingly powerful card, specifically because it can immediately kill itself. You can do a lot of things with this.
Yeah, I think you can. I think there's more to this card than you initially think, is the way I'm kind of looking at this. And especially because of the partner thing, and you're mentioning this now, you can partner this with the right thing and really do some kind of crazy things.
Yeah.
Everyone dies.
Boom, everyone dies. What?
What's the connection there, Alex?
I guess. Oh, because I guess you can. Oh no, he's exactly right. Because if you have infinite red mana and you can kill it over and over with its -X, you can just cast it again and again.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Oh.
Good point, Alex.
Ooh, that's spicy.
Yeah, that is really spicy.
Ooh, hot tamale. That's spicy.
Good call, Alex. Thanks for bringing that one up. Yeah, I really like. I think that there are some really abusable things that you can do with this. I think in limited, it's probably not going to be as exciting.
Yeah.
However, I do think you're right. Once you get into constructed and this is a usable card outside of just limited for this set, I think it's going to be really sweet.
Agreed.
Initially, this was the Planeswalker I was less excited about, though. Funny enough.
I think I'm still more excited about the second, but I think that Jessica is interesting enough that she's going to be played for a while.
For sure.
There's a number of things you can do there. So she's a very like win now kind of card, I think. Even though looking at it, you'd think like the late building it up a couple times is a better payoff, like having it on the field. But I think it works better in one big swing.
I think so too.
Like without either. Exactly right. Either some infinite mana crazy combo or a really heavy combat turn.
For sure.
I think it's going to kind of come and win outright and then get demolished off the field. Like,
I think you're right.
I think you have to answer it just given the opportunity, given the possibility that whoever's got it could kill you instantly.
Yeah, so. And I think that that's important to note that it is a must answer in a lot of situations. And I'm sure we will see multiple ways of abusing it, some of which Alex is sharing with us. So again, glad Alex is here to enlighten us a little bit on Commander. But yeah, definitely a good point.
Okay.
So let's move on to the other, which is really sweet. This one also has partner and can be obviously your commander. This is Tevesh Zat. Is that how I say it?
Zat.
Zat. Okay. It's 4 and a black. It's 4 and a black for a 4 loyalty planeswalker. You can +2 create 2/0/1 black Thrall creature tokens. You can +1. You can sacrifice another creature or planeswalker. If you do, draw 2 cards, then draw another card if the sacrifice permanent was a commander, which is really cool again because of the partner. And then -10. The Karn of everything. No, gain control of all commanders. Then put all commanders from the command zone onto the battlefield under your control. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So, several ways around this. I don't know about this set, but you can blink things.
Yeah.
You can Cyclonic Rift things away. So, this is not unbeatable necessarily.
No.
But if you take up to 4, potentially, 6 other commanders if everyone else plays with partner?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty nasty.
Yeah, it's worth noting that this technically is like decentivizing playing partners. Now, not that you'd play around this in limited by any means, but like just as a point of contention, like, if you do have partners and you're against this, you got to be a little concerned.
Yeah, and we normally wouldn't really talk about the ultimate on many cards, but since this is commander, you kind of play for the ultimate too.
Yeah.
But its other abilities, I think, are also pretty swell.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, the +2 is a nice way of just protecting itself. It's not necessarily amazing, but it does work.
And it's more permanent to interact with in some capacity.
Yeah, for sure. The +1, sacrificing another creature, planeswalker, drawing 2 cards, and then draw another card if the sacrifice permanent was a commander. Again, this works really, really well with this because it is obviously a partner, so you just get to sacrifice your other partner, which is really cool. Why couldn't it take from all zones, and why can't it be immediately ulted with doubling season?
Because that is too pushed, and
That's
you're why we
way too pushed. Alex, you're the reason we can't have nice things.
Yes.
But yeah, it's really, really cool. Note all this plays is detrimental.
I mean, yeah, but you can. It's not impossible to get back.
Yeah,
right?
I would argue the same.
Or even work around. I mean, every blue player plays with Cyclonic Rift, or at least they should.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's like a given that you play with it.
Yeah. And you just have one like really generous player overloaded, and then it's ult did anything. Boss's console, sure. I'm not saying it's not bad. I'm just saying it's not impossible.
Yeah. I mean, Alex, to your point, you're exactly right. You definitely don't want it to happen, but it's still feasible that you can work with it after it's happened. Like there are things you can do to get back. So I don't know. I think this card is sweet.
It's incredible. Like I love the ult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like super powerful. Like when I read that ultimate, because I always go to the ultimate first on these planeswalkers because that's just my natural thing to do. And I'm like, oh shit, like that's really good.
Yeah.
Arguably though, Jessica kind of excites me a little more. I'm not gonna lie. Just the win immediately potential is kind of cool.
Jessica got to build around to really make it pop off, but it'd be really fun to break.
Yeah.
This card kind of works on its own in what it wants to do.
Sure.
Like obviously you're gonna want good things to draw into to protect it, but this can be like its own guy.
Oh yeah, 100%. I definitely agree. I mean, it's
fires, but
it's just powerful. Like, it's just a good card. Like,
I think it's solid.
I agree. I definitely agree.
For sure.
As far as like confirmed spoilers at this point, and Alex, you brought this up. There are a number of leaks that have come out about this set. Technically, those planeswalkers are 2 of them. There are a number of leaks. We're not going to talk about those leaks because, again, we just want to make sure that we're speaking on things that we know for a fact are going to be in the set. There's not a ton else, though, to be honest, that we really have yet to talk about. I mean, Mana Confluence is in there. Cool. Way to be there. Just adds flexibility to the draft environment. And worth noting, I mean, it's a good land. I mean, it's fine. But, like, there's not a ton else. Nothing too exciting at this point. But again, as a whole, I kind of come back to, you know, the gimmick argument of does this fall in that gimmick category or doesn't it? I will withhold my knowledge. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate it. And I do think it's like on that line, to your point that we talked about a little bit earlier. I think it's very, very on that line because it feels a bit gimmicky. It's like, here's this one-off kind of thing that's really only meant for, you know, but at the same time, because of the reasons we discussed where it's not too far off from the regular draft pattern and it's a very, very popular format, I think we're actually in good shape here. And I think that this is going to be a fun one to play the way it is intended to play. And I certainly hope we will get a lot of chase cards in this set. And I think we will. I think we've already, just in the few that have been, again, confirmed, I think there are some really good ones. The format's a gimmick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like the gimmick that didn't die.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
Like, everything else that has been introduced as like a, you know, a weird like casual format is like fun from time to time, but never popular. Unless you're counting things like cube, which I think is fun, but it varies. Everybody's cube is different, so like it's never going to be the exact same. And that's really just regular drafting with a different set. So like, I don't know. I'm really interested to see what other cards get confirmed in this one. I think it will be a very fun set, and again, we'll have some chase cards, which is going to make it a very good way to kind of leave off 2020. And competitive player base, along with a lot of content online about it. Alex, you're right. You brought that up earlier. There are a lot of like content streams specifically dedicated to Commander. I mean, Command Zone, one of the biggest. What you mentioned a few others, Alex. Let's see.
EDA Trek constantly being updated is a
Yeah.
boon.
Oh yeah, you mentioned like Loading Ready Run does stuff, Goldfish does stuff. Yeah, 100%. There are a lot of avenues to learn and enjoy Commander, and so I think kind of steering into the skid on Wizards end of things is kind of just a smart move. The Commander product historically, at like every summer that comes out, has been one of their most solid and consistently good products. More so than a lot of others. And so like being able to maybe play into that a bit more and introduce new cards in a more like consistent way with other just set releases and things like that, I think is going to be kind of fun. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be a good time.
Same. I'm going to be excited to play it out.
Yeah, for sure. Alex, because you are the Commander expert in relation to It Resolves, is there anything that you feel we should be touching on that we are not? I think we kind of covered everything we initially thought of discussing, but certainly, again, you're much more well versed in Commander than we are. To give you the credit there, expert. Alex, you totally are.
You're the authority in It Resolves anyway.
Yeah.
How about that?
There you go. Yeah, I am looking at the Wikipedia page about like what other cards are going to be in here and stuff like that. There is a lot that has been leaked, and again, just not necessarily confirmed at this point. But still going to be really, really fun.
It will be fun. I wish we were still getting it the what was it going to be, the 6th?
Yeah, I wish that I would have liked that. We will probably do a giveaway on this.
This is for the general new player, but players at all levels can enjoy this set from casual to CDEH.
Yeah,
I mean that's my take as well. I think that provided they pack it with enough stuff that will make people want to buy it for the long run.
Yeah,
I think it could be a really, really solid set. And solid
agree.
for like the future, as long as it's profitable for players.
Yep.
To invest in is what I mean. And then it'll be really good. I would encourage people to pick it up because it'd be a good way to get some staples on the cheap, maybe.
Alex, what's your prediction?
It'll be the best-selling off-standard set of all time.
Supposedly, again, these are leaks, so keep this in mind. But some of the hold on, I sort of don't believe in, but I swear I hope Imperial Seal is the chase card. Dude, I kind of do wish we got Imperial Seal reprint. That'd be kind of sweet.
I must be dumb. I thought it was banned.
You thought it was banned?
Yeah, I thought it was banned in Commander. I'm dumb. Am I wrong? I must be wrong.
Yeah, it's not. I don't believe. It is an $800 card, though.
True. There's no way. I mean, as long as it's not on the
Bad Vamp Pooter, isn't it? Yeah.
That's fair.
I think I said Vamp Pooter, not Vamp Tutor. My bad.
We were gonna gloss over that.
Yeah, exactly. Man, there are, again, speaking in terms of leaks, there are some really cool cards that are going to be in this. And some notable good starting commanders, Alex, to your point. Like Nekusar is supposedly leaked.
Oh, okay.
Maelstrom Wanderer is also just a nice Cascade.
Oh, good. Heck yeah.
Yeah, there's some good ones. We already talked about Prosh. Zedru is in supposedly. Lots of good stuff, I think. And I think you're right, Alex. To your point when you were talking about it's good for a general and a new player, I think you're right. I think this is... I think there will be a few cards that will be like good slot-ins for a lot of the like old school or just well-versed Commander players. But I do think the majority of it's going to obviously be focused on getting more people into it. But that's kind of the nature of doing these sets anyway. They should love this set. Yeah, 100%. I agree. Sweet. Well, I really am excited for this. I'm not a huge Commander player, but I do want to test this out as it's intended. Because I think it will be more than worth it, if that makes sense.
I'm with you there. Absolutely.
Sweet. All right, we got to open a pack.
throw that bad boy open.
So, Will, what do you want to open? We got Mystery Booster, we got Oath of the Gatewatch, Planar Chaos, and Dark Ascension.
Oh, you had me at Planar Chaos.
Planar Chaos it is. Let's open a pack, guys. Planar Chaos is sweet, too. I really like this set.
Oh, yeah, buddy.
This is at a time where Magic was like, you know what would be fun? Make all of the colors do things that they're not supposed to do.
Right.
We got...
rules.
This is going to be a little blurry, I apologize. Shaper Parasite. We have Battering Sliver. We have White Mane Lion. Actually, a really cool card, I think. Octavi Drake. Blight Speaker, which is a really nice Rebel card. Aquamorph Entity. Evolution Charm. Prodigal Pyromancer. Kind of a take on the Timmy strategy. Is it the Timmy strategy?
Which is
the pingers.
Yes.
Yeah. Simian Spirit Guide. Really cool card. Merfolk Thaumaturgist. I don't know what that means.
Thaumaturgist?
Sure.
Is that the one? Yeah.
Oh, speaking of hate cards, Salt Blast. Destroy target non-white permanent. Only non-white. Muckdrub, which was a really cool Madness card. I really liked Madness. Ooh, our rare Molten Firebird. We got 2 rares in this pack. And then a cool suspend card, Banalish Commander. And then a foil, Pouncing Worm. I don't know this set super well, so I actually don't know what the best pick is. I'm going to look at the rares, though, because assuming those... they're probably the best. Play return to the battle. 3-ish. There's the number of soldiers you control. That's a little interesting.
I was going to say, I think the Banalish Commander was one of the better ones. But...
oh, yeah, because you can suspend it for X, and then every time a time counter comes off of it, you get a 1/1 soldier that then buffs it after the fact. The Firebird's fine. The Phoenix is just replayable, which is cool. But it's kind of annoying. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's the commander. Sweet. Well, now what?
Well,
what you want to talk about as we wrap up?
I'll talk about this. This is kind of a throwback to last week's episode. About 3 pro players were practicing with blue-black control.
Really? So funny enough, I tested and I didn't end up playing it on stream. I went Rakdos mid-range, which does kind of play similarly to a control deck because it's like hand destruction and lots of kill spells.
Okay. What's the payoff there for you?
So the payoff is mostly Kroxa. Rankle is in the deck.
Sure. Okay.
And then you do just have like some mid-range threats like Bone Crushers, which are just decent. But really the idea is to like devalue their hand and their board and then just be able to like swing in with Kroxa.
Make them draw to beat you. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. Which it worked really well. I played 6 games. I won 5 of the 6. So I'm not unhappy about that. It had the deck list that I pulled because I did build my own initially, which went so well I decided to stop. And I ended up pulling a list from online. And it had like a 67% win rate or something like that. And it did pretty well. I was pretty impressed with it. It also, because it has like some of the land flip lands like Shatter Skull Smashing and things like that, it doesn't suffer very, very easily from like mana screwed instances.
That's nice. Again, to date.
So good. But also it tops out at 4. So like it's really easy to start getting to the point where you can do 2 things per turn because most of the deck is 2 mana.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So it's kind of like it's the lightest mid-range you could be, really.
Oh, 100%. Right? Like if you look at the 2-drop slot, it's insane. It's just 2-drop after 2-drop after 2-drop. It's got like Scorching Dragonfire, Kroxa, Agonizing Remorse, just everything. It was really, really good. And I did play with a Grixis control list. That was what I was playing around with prior.
So I wanted to bring that up potentially. So there are three like flavors of control that I wondered are viable. I already think blue black is, so really I guess two others. But blue white, Zoria's
Sure.
control, and Grixis was the other that I was curious about.
I really like Grixis. It didn't work well for me in my creation of it, but
I don't think it's got the right stuff.
so that was why that's the issue I ran into.
Yeah,
And
I don't
I
think.
was pegging it down to my like numbers of each thing were not necessarily correct. I had tailored more towards individual removal and less towards sweepers. Um, I would argue, given the aggro meta in standard at the moment,
You should
um,
play.
you should
Yeah,
probably play more sweepers. But
there are a lot of good ones right now too.
yeah.
There's a couple in black. There's like two in black.
Mm-hmm.
And then one right and red that deals 5 to everything.
4.
Is it 4? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Creatures and planeswalkers.
Yeah, that's right. So there's some good stuff. I just don't know in a control shell what you play red for right now, and that's what I was struggling with.
Yeah,
Because
well, so my thing was I was actually struggling with the counter spell aspect of it. And I
it's
know that this sounds weird.
and no, it's tricky in Grixis to put your counter spells in because it's what's Grixis? Good question. So Grixis is a 3-color combination. There are names for all of the various combinations,
Yeah.
but the Grixis colors are blue, black, and red. Yep.
And
Yeah.
Extinction Event, Alex, is the exile sweeper, where you choose odd or even, and that one tends to get played quite a bit right now.
It's so good.
Oh yeah, the fact that it exiles is amazing because it hits. Like if you do have a Croxa on the other opposing side of the field, you can just get rid of it and it's gone forever.
Oh, there is there's a third black sweeper now that I'm thinking of.
Is there?
I think. Or actually, I'm sorry, Ritual's out.
Yeah, Ritual's out.
So
And Cry is out.
yeah, there's a second one. But it's does it have to be 5 or more CMC? Or 5 or more? 5 or less. I don't remember.
My point though with the counter spells is I found it not to be, and again, keeping in mind that this is only tested from a few games, so this should not be taken as a very large sample set. I'd like to test more before I make a definitive like statement on this. But what I was finding, at least at the time, was that having counter spells in the deck is good every once in a while, but when you're against these aggro decks, what tends to happen is you have enough mana in your hand for or on the field for one of the counters in your hand. The opponent with the same amount of mana can play multiple things in a turn because everything is very cheap. And so my issue with it was that while I could maybe counter one thing, I couldn't counter everything, and therefore the counter spells were not quite as powerful as I was hoping, which is why I went to the Rakdos, mid-range deck because it was very removal focused, and I found that to be pretty successful. Again, within a small sample set, just to be clear. But that seemed to work better in this standard environment at the time.
Yeah, with standard right now, I don't see Grixis synergizing very well. You don't have really any, in my opinion, any gold cards that like work together in those color combinations that you put into the control deck. So you don't have a lot of. I think there's plenty of spot removal in the colors.
For sure.
Like you can slot counters in and wham bam, there's your control list. But I don't think the route to win is easiest. I go with blue black because it seems to me that it's got the most punishing spells right now, as well as the best. Well, probably one of the 3 best finishers for control decks in the new Ashiok.
So that was the finisher in the Grixis deck as well.
Okay. I think it probably should be.
Yeah, I think Ashiok is just really solid at the moment in a control shell. You do have to get to Ashiok, which is obviously why it works best in the control shell. If you're in the wrong deck, Ashiok isn't necessarily the best.
You only get to play Ashiok in control.
Yeah.
It feels weird elsewhere being what 5 mana or 6?
It's 5.
Feels weird in an aggro deck to play that.
Yeah, it
So
just doesn't work. But it is actually, I do really like Ashiok as a payoff card. But again, you really have to be able to control the board before you drop that Ashiok, because while it does spit out a 2/3, if they're playing 2 to 3 creatures at that point, 5-6 mana, if they're playing 2, maybe 3, it seems pushing it on 3, but if they're playing that many creatures per turn, it's great that you're playing a planeswalker and a creature, but they just get to swing in with both and get them on the backswing. So it really isn't that ideal unless you can sweep first, which is generally the case. I mean, that's not a surprise, obviously.
No, that's kind of how it goes. I like it best in the blue-black that work on taking their stuff first. So you use a lot of the Drown in the Lock, those kind of cards.
Yeah.
It's honestly also solid in the mill deck because you exile cards on damage.
100%.
It's really,
so are you saying blue-black control is like your pick for the best control deck right now, or?
The second thing I wanted to, one of the other best finishers is in blue-white. And holy shit, the name escaped me, but it decimated when it just dropped. It's the blue-white flyer that protects itself.
Oh, Dream Trawler?
Yes, thank you. It's just a solid card.
Yeah.
Because there is so much spot removal right now that a finisher like that not only gains value every turn, like it's always going to be swinging for 5/4 because you draw a card. A card that can protect itself, even though it taps, they've still burned a spell trying to kill it.
Yeah.
Like all of it's too good to ignore. I saw it get played against, I think Yellow Hat streamed, and Gabriel Nassif, and he lost. So Gabriel or someone else? Someone played a game this week and got his face beaten in by these cards. Now, granted, his opponent was able to resolve like 2 in a row, but yeah,
that's
and
killer.
But yeah, like honestly, maybe there's an Esper list somewhere that can control the hand and the board.
I mean, theoretically, an Esper list would have, again, theoretically, it would have the best of both worlds, because not only do you get the best, probably 2 finishers for a control deck right now, which are Ashiok and Dream Trawler. I think I agree with you there. You also have access to like the every sweeper except for Storm's Wrath, and like the best sweepers for sure, like Shatter the Sky, Extinction Event. Like there's a lot of good stuff you can get there. And Shatter the Sky right now, I would argue, is at its best that it's been, solely because you're not necessarily dealing with creatures with 4 or more power right now. A lot of the time you're dealing with creatures that are a lot lower than that. It just happens to be a lot of them. I've been seeing a lot of like warrior lists where they play like the double strike 1/1. They play the 3/1 that if you discard a card, it gets indestructible, which is a very annoying card, by the way. But, a lot of those kinds of things, and everything in that deck, barring having been equipped with something, does have less than 4 power. So, like, they don't even get to draw a card off of the Shatter the Sky. I think there are a lot of instances where that's the case. I mean, you look at Scoot Swarm. Scoot Swarm is, like, stupid good, but it is still a 1/1, so you sweep it and it's gone, Like, they don't draw a card off of it unless you mutate on it, which, by the way, if you didn't watch the last Breaking the Bot episode, was hilarious. It was awesome. Did you know that if you mutate onto it, it makes a copy of the final mutated creature, so you get multiple? Yeah.
I didn't.
I made a deck on Breaking the Bot specifically for that, and I tweeted out actually a picture of the trigger stack. When I was playtesting it, I had 3,000 triggers on the stack. In the video, we got to 1,000, and I had to turn off the stream because it took too long. And so I literally lost, like, I didn't have time to finish the game. But it's a really fun thing. But again, most often you can sweep without having to worry too much about power on board. The only time you might is like the mono green lists that are out there. Which obviously, questing beast is there, things like that.
Beanstalk Giant right now, I feel like would kind of, but
yeah, regardless, I'm with you. I think there's a really solid control list that needs to be found.
Yeah, I think it's probably blue-black, but Esper's in the cards.
Mm-hmm.
I think you gotta have another reason to play white other than Dream Trawler, I think.
Is Shatter not good enough, you think?
No, it is, but I don't think Shatter and a finisher is enough. Like, unless you're just playing like 4 white sources, maybe.
Well, I mean, you got the pathway lands, which really help ease up on a
Yeah.
lot of the. Again, this is like, as far as we don't have like shock lands in or anything like that anymore, but we still have a very flexible mana base at the moment. Potentially more flexible than ever. Like, it's kind of insane. In a recent standard, I will say.
Yeah.
But either way, it's really, really cool. Yeah, I don't know. I want to play around this week. Now that my actual work has like died down a little bit, hopefully.
Thing.
Yeah, we had a conference last week, but now that that's done, I would like to kind of play around with some control lists this week and see what we can do. We've actually been shying away from control up until now, just because the meta hasn't necessarily called for it, but I think it really is now.
It was nasty.
Yeah.
Nasty for control.
As we finish up, control's the best, Alex. Heck yeah. If there are any questions, please feel free to leave them in chat. If there's anything you just want to talk about, please feel free to leave that there as well. As we're finishing up this episode, Will, is there anything outside of Magic that you would like to talk about?
Oh, outside of Magic? Jeez.
While you're thinking, I want to give a quick shout out. I don't know if he's still here, but Andy, if you are still here, Stev Official Music. First of all, go follow Stev. He does bomb ass music, but
house and like, what else would you call it? I guess house and maybe synth.
Yeah, well, it varies. He does a lot of collabs with some other artists as well. He recently released, like, a few weeks back, he released a really cool track. But regardless, he's kicking some ass. Absolutely love Andy. Please go check out Stev. Genuinely, it's very, very good stuff. He works very hard on it. And I had the pleasure of hanging out with Andy and Zach, who anybody on the channel has no idea who that is, but Will, you do.
I care.
Yeah, got to hang out with those two today,
nice.
Which was really special. I haven't really been hanging out with people because everything's been so busy lately. And I sent a text out and I was like, guys, I need some friend time. And they were kind enough to be like, dude, absolutely. And so it was a really good time. Kevin, will you try some set specific commander with this new set? My only question. Non-set specific commander?
Like outside of Commander Legends, I'm assuming.
I mean, yeah, I guess. I'm fine with it. We pushed into Historic and we did Jumpstart. I'm down for whatever. It's just got to be on Arena. Like, that's the biggest thing. So that way it's not ugly to watch. But yeah, regardless, I had a fun time with Andy and Zach today. It was a pleasure to hang out with them. We talked music, which was really cool.
Nice.
And just had a really fun time. So, and also, Andy, thank you for the Kentucky Gentleman bourbon. While bourbon's not my favorite, you didn't have scotch, so it was the next best thing.
Rude.
But yeah.
Scotch tastes like feet. Bourbon just hurts.
I disagree, but okay.
Scotch tastes like feet.
I don't think scotch tastes like feet. I don't know what kind of feet you got in your mouth, but I don't think that's what it's. I don't think that's what it's like. One whole rude, Alex. That's so rude.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Will, why you eating feet?
Hey, I'll try anything once.
Ew.
That's all you gotta know about that.
So yeah, is there anything you wanted to mention before we sign off?
I might finally win a game of fantasy football this year.
Oh, I believe in you.
Maybe.
That's exciting, I guess. I don't really know.
Possibly. Probably not.
Probably not. That's fine. All right. Well, that was a good talk.
I think that's probably it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I got, really.
Well, I will pose one final question to chat, which mostly consists of Alex. Who was the team? Which team? I mean, what? Your Final Fantasy team?
My Final Fantasy
Not
team?
Final Fantasy. Your fantasy football team. Those are two very different things.
What do you mean?
I think he thinks you just picked a team that might win.
Oh. No.
That's not how fantasy football is done. Which is surprising that I know that, but that's not how fantasy football is done.
Correct. But hey, which team? Nah, look. What?
All right, I'm posing a question while Alex is typing whatever the F he means. For anybody in chat, what for next week's podcast episode, the obvious kind of low-hanging fruit is probably going to be a continuation of Commander Legends when like more spoilers continue to come out.
Sure.
But if there's anything specific that you would like us to talk about, please feel free to share it with us. We try and prepare pretty well for these episodes. This week was a little tough going.
Oh yeah, it was not there.
No, but that's okay. I think that's going to happen from time to time. But just if there's anything that you really want us to kind of discuss on this on the next podcast episode, please let us know. We'd love to take that as a topic suggestion. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Really excited for Commander Legends. I think it's going to be a fun set. I really hope you guys enjoyed this podcast episode. Sorry we didn't have the music at the beginning, by the way. I have a new computer. Don't have it set up yet. We're going to get there.
Yeah, that's the reason most of you come, honestly, is the tunes at the front. Sorry about it.
It's easier if I'm just wrong. Alex, we're going to end on that. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate everybody hanging out. My name is Kevin.
My name's Will.
This has been It Resolves.